Good morning from Tales of Tera. Another day.
Another adventure.
Yes, we are ready for another adventure. We are about 35 miles outside of Washington, D.C. We're in a Greenville Farm family campground. It is a beautiful sight. You can probably hear the birds behind us. It's the beginning of the month and paid all the bills back home. So we're ready to roll. We're just kind of light on the pocket today. Very light on the pocket. Did you pay taxes today?
Pay taxes 17th.
Oh, the 17th. That's the big one. That's a big one that is coming up. Anyhow, so we're now headed to Vienna Metro Station, which is about 32 minutes from here, and from there we're going to take the metro in town. We know that it is very difficult to park in Washington, D.C., and this way we're free of the car and we can go and explore.
Most important, we're going to see the Mr. President.
Oh, Mr. President! We have an appointment with him at the outside of the White House lawn, of course. We're just gonna wave at him and say, we're here!
We visit the White House and then monuments.
To the Monument Valley, which is very nice, and then we're gonna go to the Lincoln Memorial. We're going to visit the Capitol Hill, if we can, and we're gonna go to the White House Visitor Center. And if nothing works out, we're gonna stroll along the Potomac River. I'm not sure if we're gonna have time to go to Georgetown.
We also have tomorrow here.
Oh, correct. We have also tomorrow. See, whatever we don't see today, we'll do it tomorrow. This is the second day. We're heading down to downtown DC. We got all rained out yesterday, and last night it rained quite hard. But today we're all prepared. We've got our umbrella, we've got our raincoats. So once we land, we'll continue where we left off from yesterday.
Planning to go to National Monument and Lincoln Center.
Yes, I have not been in Lincoln Center. All these years I come and go here. Today's the second day, so we should get it done because we don't have any more days. We are all prepared, brought everything. And Fethiye is complaining that she has to carry this big umbrella. This one here. But I am not, because you never know. Yes. Once you are fooled, it's on you. Then twice you are fooled, it's on me. So I'm not going to get wet today.
Yes, we had enough yesterday.
Oh, yes! John Quinn, I've been said. See ya!
The White House is the official residence and workplace of the President of the United States. It is located at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest in Washington, D.C., and has been the residence of every U.S. president since John Adams in 1800. The term White House is often used as a metonym for the president and his advisors.
the right, to the right, to the right, to the left. To the left, to the left, to the left. Now kick, now kick, now kick, now kick. Now walk it by yourself. Now walk it by yourself.
The National World War II Memorial, which honors the spirit and sacrifice of the 16 million men and women who served overseas and the more than 400,000 that perished, opened to the public in April 2004. The memorial, built to celebrate the heroes of the greatest generation, remains one of the most visited sites on the National Mall.
We're at the World War II Memorial, right between the obelisk to the Lincoln Memorial. It is a lovely day and a lot of people out.
With more than 4.2 million visits in 2014. Each year, more than 300 honor flights bring World War II veterans, as well as those who served in the Korean and Vietnam Wars, to the memorials dedicated to their service. Perennial visitor favorite, the Lincoln Memorial stands at the west end of the National Mall as a neoclassical monument to America's 16th president. A 19-foot statue of Abraham Lincoln sits overlooking the reflecting pool and the Washington Monument from his permanent seat in America's front yard. Dedicated in 1922, the Lincoln Memorial has been home to many defining moments in American history. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his "I Have a Dream" speech from the steps of the Lincoln Memorial in front of 250,000 attendees. Monuments and memorials aren't the only things to love about the National Mall. Get the most out of your visit to the mall by reading up on its full array of museums. Washington Monument. This recently reopened monumental obelisk was built to honor George Washington, America's first president, and stands today as the world's tallest freestanding stone structure. Construction began in 1848, but a lack of funds, political squabbling, and the Civil War interrupted the work from 1854 to 1877. A clear change in the color of the stones can be seen about 1/3 of the way up the monument. The slightly darker stones at the bottom were placed before construction paused, while the lighter stones above it were brought in from a different quarry following the Civil War.
Stop is Maine this year, all the way down to Florida.
Yes.
Lincoln Memorial. There's a celebration behind.
I am right in front of the Lincoln Memorial.
You're all invited to the reception at the garden around 6 o'clock. Bring whoever you want. Let's drink some beer. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Fourscore and 7 years ago our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty, and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, or any nation so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field, as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But, in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it, far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note, nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
French had been massacred at a place called Dien Bien Phu a few years earlier, so he understood how precarious it could be. So this was a very major land battle. Now they were called the cavalry, but anybody ride horses into Vietnam, guys? What did they ride?
Helicopters.
Helicopters. So they rode helicopters into battle, and the Americans won the war. Famous quote from the North Vietnamese commander who said, "It's too bad the Americans won the battle because now they think they'll win the war." But for our independence, it was also a civil war in Vietnam. And what he meant by that was that the North Vietnamese people could stand those kind of losses. They were not going to surrender even with that number of losses. But for the Americans, when we begin to see all those names, and they begin to be scrolled on the nightly news every night, and people begin to see body bags coming back into the United States, Americans begin to ask the question, why? Why? So it's going to be kind of a turning point. People are going to begin to wonder, why are we fighting in Vietnam? There's 58,281 names here. The average age here is about 23 years old. Walking around, always remember, one wall points to the Washington Monument and one wall points to the Lincoln Memorial. So the Vietnam veterans got their place of honor.
What a difference that they make. Yesterday, about this time, we're in this very spot and we were wet. It was raining, cats and dogs, and we were wet. And today, it's beautiful blue skies, not too hot, no rain in sight. So the word, what a difference a day can make, is a very appropriate word.
The Smithsonian Institution is the world's largest museum and research complex, with 19 museums with over 137 million objects, and 9 research centers across the globe. Explore resources on the history of the institution, beginning with James Smithson's 1829 bequest to the people of the United States. The Smithsonian is the largest museum and research complex in the world. While its museums are visible and well known, the Smithsonian's many research centers devoted to art, astrophysics, endangered species, environmental sciences, history, marine biology, object conservation, and tropical biology are less recognized. The District of Columbia has been home to many prominent musicians and is mainly known for the musical genres of jazz, rhythm, and blues, bluegrass, punk rock, and its locally developed descendants hardcore and emo, and a local funk genre called go-go. In accordance with the Residence Act passed by Congress in 1790, President Washington 1791 selected the area that is now the District of Columbia to serve as the nation's capital. French engineer Pierre-Charles L'Enfant was charged with planning the new city of Washington. He located the U.S. Capitol building at the elevated east end of the National Mall, on the brow of what was then called Jenkins Hill. The site was, in L'Enfant's words, a pedestal waiting for a monument. As the country grew, so did Capitol Hill, with the construction of buildings housing the Congress, Supreme Court, Library of Congress, and Botanic Garden. Grand Army of the Republic, a patriotic organization of American Civil War veterans who served in the Union forces, one of its purposes being the defense of the late soldiery of the United States, morally, socially, and politically. Founded in Springfield, early in 1866. Building received its official name, the J. Edgar Hoover FBI Building, through public law, which President Richard Nixon signed on May 4, 1972, 2 days after Director Hoover's death. President Gerald Ford dedicated the building on September 30, 1975.
You arrived?
Yeah, yes, finally we arrived at Metro Center Station.
And from here, we're going home, right?
Yeah, we are going to
Vienna.
Vienna Station.
And then take our
and
car.
then take our car and then go to home.
Let me know. Orange. It could not have been any better. As we walked into the station, we have the orange line going to Vienna, and we didn't even have to wait a minute. This is quite the way to go back home. It's great.